the Win or Die podcast, episode 2. I'm MikeWrecka,
And I'm Ride for Life 3.
and we're here talking about all the going-ons in Win or Die Tournament League here today.
Yes, it's going to be an interesting conversation, especially with all the controversy that has occurred over the last couple of weeks between DICE and some teams.
We want to announce, and hype up that we have a 3 versus 3 dogfight tournament coming up. A lot of pilots have really been piling into the Discord. We've had some 1v1 pilot matchups, which were definitely something I've never seen before. It's a lot of flying in circles. But, the 3 versus 3 dogfight tournament is going to be a lot more exciting than that. And we're really hyped up to see it unfold when it takes place. So that's definitely something to look forward to.
Yeah, and make sure you tune in because you don't want to miss all the action.
Okay, so we had a guest lined up. He was like playing in traffic or something. I don't know. We had a lot of background noise, so we had to give him the boot, NetHack. And we're just going to do it, just the two of us here. We definitely want to have guests on in the future. It's, we want to get your guys' opinion on things. We want to hear what you think about the league and about the matchups we have going on. So, that's definitely something you guys should get involved with moving forward.
And, we want to thank you, NetHack, for, trying to be able to be a part of this. Obviously, it didn't work this time, but we're definitely going to keep you in the list for an opportunity in the future, so we do appreciate you trying. And let's get right into it. I think the first thing we should discuss is this Battlefield bulletin that they dropped on saying May 23rd, Battlefield will never be the same again. What do you think is going on there?
I mean, it's definitely what a lot of people have been expecting is that they are going to go the battle royale route, which seems to be really taking over. You got the PUBG, you got Fortnite, which is, tremendous. So a lot of people are expecting that they might add that to Battlefield.
I think it would be a cool addition. I mean, it'll take a little bit different aspect on the game, but if you think about it, you have 100 people in a server, you have squads of 5, and it's 5 versus 95. I mean, what can get better than that? It's gonna be sick, if that is the case.
I mean, as long as they don't focus too much on that, because to me, Battlefield is all about the teamwork. It's about the vehicles. It's about large scale maps. And, if I don't want them to focus too much on that, but if that's just like a little extra bonus that they sprinkle in, that could definitely be fun.
I gotta agree with you there.
Um, Something that we probably definitely should also talk about, when we touched upon, let's talk about last weekend's matchups here. We had Wham versus PT, and it was definitely an exciting match to watch, and we had a bit of controversy as well.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of an issue going through once we got all finished up. We had Wham, who ended up starting the match a man short, and they ended up trying to fight and hold it together, but being a man short, they were really struggling. And that really stirred up a little bit of controversy, but there's no hard feelings against anybody. We are excited for the future league, the future in the league, and as well as all of the teams that are getting involved in it. So, even if you're out this time, we have many more opportunities in the future. So be ready, get excited. It's going to be a long, great road ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the server issues that were plaguing Battlefield for a couple of weeks, really, it took a lot of wind out of the sails of all the leagues around, all the different outlets that were there. But those issues are fixed. We are ready to roll forward, full steam ahead. We have some great matchups lined up, and from here on, it's just going to absolutely kick ass. This tournament, I'm super excited for.
Yeah, I'm glad Dice finally decided to do something right for once. I mean, we've been struggling since pretty much since the inception of the game. It came out great. It was running smooth, and then with every update, I don't know, they just kept messing up, and it was one thing after another. So the fact that they fixed the servers for us is definitely a big plus. We're excited to get this back in full swing and really keep pushing forward and get some boots on the ground action and see some battles.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we could take this opportunity to do some shout outs just at the beginning so people don't even have to wait till the end to hear some shout outs. So, I
All
definitely want to give a big shout out to Muni, who put up, he put together this logo that we're looking at right now. Shout out to Kill Switch, Smoke, Disco Volante, Boogie. Shout out to Blitzkrieg. and
Yeah.
And the biggest shout out, the guy who's made the absolute most impact in Win or Die in the last week has to be number one Cutie. He's the newest pilot for VIP, and he's just absolutely the self-proclaimed best pilot in Battlefield. You can write it down. Boom, book it.
Oh boy, here we go. But yeah, I mean, big shout out to everybody who's been involved, who's staying involved. We owe it all to you guys. Without you all here, we wouldn't be able to do this. And we're trying to give you the best experience we can give you with the time that we have. And, so shout out to everybody who's competing, plans on competing, and plans on staying involved with Win or Die.
And of course, shout out to Black Vans, the co-owner of the league with myself, and guy that keeps things running along with me and Ride and Boogie and absolutely. Let's jump right into it here. Previous matchups that we had in the first round. Let's go over VIP versus Delta Alliance.
All right, VIP versus Delta Alliance. I mean, from the way the stats lay out, it was a pretty close game. I mean, VIP were definitely pushing hard. Um, Delta Alliance just had the upper hand. They had a little bit more hand-eye coordination. They were able to get their gunfights down. They were able to hold those flags. And ultimately, in round one, they ended up winning by just over 200 points, really giving VIP round two a run for their money. Um, it was great. You have Delta Alliance came in with 500, with VIP coming in at 294 points for the first round, and then with the second round, VIP came in with 352 points. Even though Delta Alliance did take the win, they still put up a good fight. So shout out to VIP.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I wasn't able to participate in this matchup. I had something going on, so I missed out. But I watched the stream and definitely Delta Alliance a little more experience. It showed. VIP. This was our first match. There was a lot of things they were doing that can be improved upon. I saw a land ship out there which just got shredded by a heavy tank time and time again. Definitely some things to clean up, but definitely a learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, this is for a lot of people, this is very new to them. They don't understand, every aspect of how to play on a competitive level. So it's a learning curve, and everybody's going to take a little time here or there to learn it. But overall, VIP put up numbers, and you can't help but be proud.
Okay, let's revisit the PT versus Wham matchup here.
All right, PT versus Wham matchup. Like we said earlier, we had a little bit of controversy. Um, on round one, when we started, we had Wham one man short. They accidentally jumped on the gun and started the match, so we assumed that they were just playing a man short and continued through the gameplay, not realizing that their one player still had to get in. But we also have to thank DICE for the screw up because due to the fact we had public servers and couldn't set a password, randoms were joining, which was affecting their 12th man trying to get in.
Because
But overall,
the 12th man didn't have his tags on, right? Isn't that where the confusion really took place?
Correct. Yeah, he had loaded in, and then they got ready to start thinking he was still in, but due to the fact that the servers were messed up, all of our admins knew that if you did not have a team tag, you got the instant boot. There was nothing, we couldn't sit there and look at lists for every person that tried to join to try and keep track of what was going on. So ultimately, it was a miscommunication, but we had to push forward, we had to keep going, and luckily he did get in and he was able to partake in the end of the first round and then all of the second round. So, and the points definitely showed. You could definitely tell a difference between the 11 man and the 12 man, although I say one man doesn't make a difference. It did in this instance. I mean, you had round one, PT just absolutely dominated with a 500 to a 271 point spread. But in round two, you had Wham coming up with 432 points. And,
That's a
if
close match
things
right there.
yeah, I mean, if things were a little bit different, we could have had a little bit different of an outcome. I really am excited to see what the future of Wham holds. And big shout out to Net because he is a member of Wham. So, thank you for trying to participate. Yeah, I mean, it was a great fight overall. PT put up a great fight. Wham got stuck a few times. They got stuck in a spawn trap for a little while, but then they pushed around and got a flank. But overall, they just didn't have what it took to take the win.
What kind of vehicle combinations were they using there?
I mean, they were running anything from heavy tank, mostly heavy tank, but occasionally they would have a truck and they would drive a truck across map just to try and get those other flags and try and get spread out because they were really having a difficult time pushing forward when you had Nightmare in the tank and I think first game he went like 39 and 0 or something like that. So when you're facing players who have experience working this type of equipment as well as the planes, nobody takes into nobody takes into consideration everything else that's going on, especially when those players are experienced in those fields.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the vehicles make a big difference in small conquest. So that's definitely something that I find interesting because we allow people to have different combinations. You could have two tanks, you could have two planes, you could have one of each. What's going to be the best employed combination there? It's going to be
Right.
interesting to see.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there.
Okay, we had a bunch of people advance by no show, unfortunately. That's kind of how it works sometimes in the first round of a match. The pretenders, they don't show up. They don't make their presence, they don't make their presence felt at all. So SOD, RZ, Six Star Generals, and Murder Mafia all advance from no show, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah,
we
sadly, VVV didn't show. We had Team Columbia who didn't show. Um, who were the other two teams? Let's see. VVV,
Foam didn't show.
Foam didn't show. And then, let me see, who was the last one? Tags, right?
Yeah, and tags.
Tags was a no-show. So it was kind of disappointing, but at the same time, with the screw-ups in the servers and everything else that happened, and having to postpone matches because of issues, I mean, it's difficult to blame the team as a whole solely on themselves. I
Well, you know
definitely
what?
hope that.
I'm gonna call them out a little bit, and I'm gonna ask you. When sometimes when teams don't show, they're all gung ho. Then we do the drawing of the matchups. They see who they're gonna face, and all of a sudden they drop out. So now is it a case of a dodge, a duck? Is it a case of that, or is it a case of they just don't have the numbers?
Right. I mean, it all comes down to communication too. If you don't have the manpower, you just got to simply respond and say, "Hey, listen, we don't have the manpower. We got to, forfeit the match, throw the white flag." But we don't want those teams and those players who brag about being part of this. Oh, now we're facing this team, so we're gonna still have them set up the server and get all the other members in there, and we're just not gonna show up or respond. Like, no, that shit ain't gonna fly here.
Yeah, I mean, VVV. I know they lost some players. He was messaging me left and right. Take the tags off this guy. Take the tags off this guy. Take the tags off this guy. I'm going, holy shit, your team's getting decimated here. And then next thing you know, he messaged me and said we are not going to have enough players. So I could definitely give them a pass. Teams like Foam, Tags, Team Columbia, there's really no excuse for them. So
Yeah, I mean, like I said, all it takes is just a quick message. Just let us know what's going on. We're not going to be judgmental. We're not going to ban you from playing in the future, but honesty is the best policy. And if you can't make it to a match, just simply let us know.
yeah, I mean, now they got to prove themselves in the next one. That's how it comes down to. All right,
Yep.
we have some first round matchups going on this weekend. Two good ones, definitely something to look forward to. Oxygen versus Jedi. We spoke in the last podcast about the matchups. This is one that I'm definitely looking forward to.
Yeah, I got to admit, I mean, when we first found out, and me being a member of Jedi, am going to be competing with Jedi. When we first found out we were facing off against Oxygen, we really got nervous because, Oxygen are a strong, solid team of experienced players who've been playing in these games for a long time. Um, but due to the server issues, we've had a little bit more time to practice, a little bit more time to scrim, and I got to tell you, we have our confidence, man, and we really think we're going to bring our A game. We're going to put up a good fight.
Yeah, I'm starting to, think more and more highly of Jedi every day. Basically, I'm starting to really think that they are going to put up a good fight. Um, Oxygen. With that being said, Oxygen is still definitely the favorite there.
Yeah, I got to agree. I mean, Oxygen also has a lot of players who are known in the comp scene, so it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, and see where it all goes.
Absolutely, and we have EV versus Regime or Blue Devil Regime.
Yeah, EV and Regime is going to be a great matchup as well. I had the opportunity to play in a couple of servers over the past few days with a bunch of EV members and Regime members, and they're well-rounded players. We know that Regime is a well-rounded team. We know that they work well together. And EV, even though they're a new team, we know that they have a lot of experienced players. So I hope not to see a blowout, but I really think that EV is going to put up a dominating fight. Even though they're new, their players aren't new. You know what I mean? They definitely aren't just a new bunch of scrubs who are just joining in here. So it's definitely going to be sick.
I know EV's had a little bit of turbulence. Some of their players have dropped out recently. Some of the, I'm not exactly who, but I've heard a few of them I know personally that have left EV. So I don't know how much that's affected their competition roster or not, but we'll definitely see. There's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at, we have some of the second round matchups already set here. And, let's take a peek and see what the second round holds, which, once we get to the second round, all the teams that were going to no show are gone. At this point, every team's going to be there. They're going to be competing. They're going to be fighting, and it's going to be, just action, nonstop action. It's going to be a lot of fun. So one that we already have set is Delta Alliance versus PT.
Yeah, this is going to be a great matchup. I
Well,
mean,
it's a grudge match too.
yeah, yeah, it is. It's a major grudge match, and you know that there's a lot of banter going on. You know that people are going to be talking shit to each other before this matchup. Um, but PT, once again, we got to remember Project Trojan are Project Trojan. They have been around for a while. They've built up a reputation of being the best, and they once again are going to stand there and defend that title. So Delta Alliance is going to have to step up, bring their A game, and face what could be one of potentially the best teams on the PS4 community.
Yeah, I'd like to see Delta Alliance put up a good fight here. They have some good players. They're better than people give them credit for. And if they could hang in there a little bit, or maybe even steal around, that'd be monumental for them.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have SOD versus RZ, which these two teams are basically both unknown elements of the tournament to me.
Yeah, I mean, round one for SOD, they won by forfeit from Team Columbia because Columbia didn't show up, and same goes for RZ with tags not showing up. So we haven't seen any actual action from them. We don't know what they have in store. We don't know what kind of gun game they have or anything really. So it's really still up in the air. And I'm just nervous and excited. I'm curious to see which team is going to come out on top.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we have a possible matchup of Murder Mafia versus either Oxygen or Jedi, depending on the winner of that match. Um, I think honestly, whoever wins Oxygen versus Jedi, if Jedi's good enough to beat Oxygen, Jedi I would think, is good enough to beat Murder. If Oxygen wins, they're definitely the heavy favorite in round two against Murder Mafia.
Right. I mean, all I know is with Jedi, we've faced Murder Mafia in the past. We've played them in front lines. We've played them in other conquests. We've messed around with them in scrims. So we have a little bit of experience playing against them. Um, as far as where we would stand facing them, I think we would have better odds facing them than Oxygen. But
Hmm.
we're really just going to have to step up and, overcome Oxygen to be able to get a slightly easier fight from what it would seem.
Yeah, and that's just how the brackets break down sometimes, which is part of the fun. Um,
Exactly.
the other fourth matchup of the quarterfinals is going to be six-star Generals, which I'm very excited to see them in action. It's a shame they got no-showed first round, but six-star Generals versus EV or Regime.
Yeah, this is going to be a good fight. Like we said in the last podcast, six-star generals, they made their name by bragging that they were the shit. They were the best. They had an undefeated record. They came in, they ended up facing up against PT, and, a little bit of shit went down. They kind of got quiet. But the fact that they're still involved and the opportunity they will have to face one of these two teams is going to be great. They're going to have to really put up some good numbers. They're going to have to hold those flags down because they're not both of these teams that they're waiting on, Regime as well as EV. They're not easy teams to beat. So, this isn't just going to be out of whim. They're going to move right through and advance just like they did in week 1. They got to prepare to fight against whoever wins in week 1.
Whoever wins that matchup out of those three teams definitely boosts their reputation, in my eyes at
Oh,
least. I mean, let's say
absolutely.
Regime was to come in and beat six-star Generals. That'd probably be the biggest win they've ever had. Um, if if six-star Generals were to come in and beat EV, that's definitely a big win for them. Absolutely, and the same goes for EV. If EV comes in and beats six-star Generals, yeah, that's a great win to have.
Yeah, it's going to be a major grudge fight. Even though they've never faced off, they're still going to, want to take that notch on their belt because they don't want to take a loss. And it'll be a good fight. It'll be a fun fight. And I think that matchup is going to be the most popular matchup of week 2.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching. All right. All right. So we had some questions lined up for our guest. The guest isn't here, so I guess we can just, round table me and you, just have a discussion and ask each other a few questions before the podcast ends here.
All right.
All right. So here you go. Question number
Hey,
one: the better the player, the less of a social life. True or false?
better to play less of the social life. I say false. I think you can have a social life and still be a good player. It just comes to consistency and being able to practice, practice, practice. I mean, you know, I work 90 hours a week, 80, 90, sometimes 100 hours a week. I come home and I still want to play. I could be exhausted and I'll put in at least an hour each night. And it just takes that kind of consistency and that kind of practice to become a good player.
See, the question is, can you become a good player playing an hour a night?
It depends how much you learn from your experience. I mean, if you jump, let's put it this way. Pub games are not, you cannot judge yourself by a pub match. The only way you're going to truly know how you do is facing up against other teams in scrims and so on and so forth, or getting into a pub that is full of experienced competitive players, which has been known to happen. I've hosted a couple of events over the past couple of years, as well as a bunch of other people I know have hosted at events and just had only clans join in on the pub game, and it's a it's a whole different playing field. I mean, you're playing against other like-minded players who have the same experience or more experience than you. You're going to learn from playing from them. It doesn't matter if you go 2-20 the first game. That second game, you're going to work towards doing better than 2-20. And because you're playing against those players, you're going to learn what to do and what not to do on a competitive level.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're a good player, you're a good player, right? It doesn't matter how much you play. I mean, I met a guy once online. He told me I play 12 hours a day every day. This was a guy with a wife and kid too. He was on
Right.
disability, and I said, "Holy shit, you." He said, "I play 60, 70 hours a week," and I was like, and I could tell you if he came into a competitive match, he'd probably get shredded, you know.
Right.
And then you got a
Yep.
player like maybe let's say Blitzkrieg who doesn't even play in pub matches. So how much is he really playing in a week? A few hours
Yep.
here or there, and he's
Yeah.
one of the top players.
I mean, I see it as kind of like riding a bike. It may take you a little while or a long while to learn how to ride that bike, but once you learn how to ride it, it doesn't matter if you wait a day or a year, you're still going to, have that muscle memory to know how to do it. You may get a little bit rusty, your aim may be slightly off, but overall, fundamentally, you know what you're doing and you know how to approach situations. Like, these games are not just about who can aim the fastest and shoot the fastest. You got to use obstacles. You need to be able to predict where your enemy is going to move so that you can move to a position where they're not going to predict you. You got to think outside the box, and that's what a lot of people don't do. If you're running down towards a location and you see a guy coming at you and he's shooting at you, don't dodge behind the wall and then peek back out in the same spot you were just at. Move to a different position, try and get a different angle to take that enemy out because they're going to still be focusing on where you just were rather on where you're going to be.
Absolutely, good advice there. All right, so one of the other questions I had lined up for net hacks was what makes Win or Die the best league you've ever been in? Because everyone knows we are the best league anyone's ever been in. So I'll ask you, because since you're participating, you might be biased. You're part of the staff, but what makes Win or Die the best?
Well, you got to look at it from a few different aspects. First, you got a group of people, you, Black Vans, myself, Oogie Boogie, you know, Disco Volante, Muni, Blitz, all of these people who are heavily involved, but primarily, the core four, Oogie, Mike, Vans, and myself. And we want to be the best and we're pushing, there's no other leagues. I don't think there's any other leagues that do a podcast out of every system. I don't think they even have PC podcasts for, leagues outside of professional esports, which is, regulated by real commentators and they have booths and they set up events where you come out in person. Like, obviously we're not to that level, but still, where are you going to find a public community on a PS4 that does podcasts, that holds monthly events, that does all kinds of different things, as well as hosting these single elimination tournaments, which nobody else thought to do? I mean, we're unique in so many different ways. How can we not be the best?
Well said. um, Absolutely. I mean, also, I want to just take this opportunity to tell people, we have the Patreon site up and running. We have some really cool rewards, mainly involving the podcast. If you want to get on the podcast, we're always looking for guests, but to get first in line, get that priority, you could donate to us. It helps pay for servers. It helps keeps the league running. And we could get you on for half an episode, a whole episode, or whatever, because we're definitely looking to get some people on here and hear their opinion and see what they have to say.
Also, remember that, right now we may be open to take anybody who wants to come in on the podcast, but as we grow, our list is going to get larger and larger. You don't want to be at the end of that list. So if you want to get involved now before it's too late. Because, 6 months down the road and all of a sudden we got 10,000 people involved. That list went from 3 people possibly want to be part of the podcast to 300 people who want to possibly be part of the podcast. That your chances of being a part of it become much slimmer.
All right, so let me just let's go. I'll ask you this every week, and I'm sure the answer may change or may not. Who do you think right now is going to win this whole tournament, and why do you think that?
Where we stand right now, only playing two matchups so far. Um, I mean, I'm excited to see what a lot of teams have to offer. I think EV has a lot of potential. I think that RZ has a lot of potential. It really is just going to come down to seeing them play, seeing what they have to offer. But as of right now, I think the favorite's still going to be Project Trojan.
Yeah, I mean, Project Trojan's definitely the favorite. I guess the second favorite would be Oxygen. But certainly any team can win here. I don't think any team is unbeatable, and I'm definitely excited to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, and unlike all the other leagues, we do it based on a point system. We don't do based on, um, uh, based on the best out of three, best out of five. We do it based on the points. So just say you win that first game by 500 and you had 499 points, and then that next game you beat them by 1 point. Now it can vary in so many different ways. Just because you win one doesn't mean you're going to win overall. You really got to push. You got to watch those points. You got to make sure you're covering your flags, make sure you're holding your positions, and just kick some ass.
Absolutely. And, someone could have a bad day. That's what's kind of, what's so fun about the knockout tournament. A team can have a bad day, and then they're out. Just like, the NCAA March Madness. It's the same idea. You see a number one team come up. They're clearly the better team, but they just had a bad day, and they're out. And that's part of the fun. So these teams have a chance. You have a chance. You could beat someone that's favored. They could have a bad day. You can advance, and who knows where you end up. You might end up the champion.
Exactly. We've seen it over and over again, underdogs coming out on top. What makes that think that can't be you? Hey, right now, my team is the underdog, but that don't mean we're not going to bring 110%. We're not going to try and, represent and prove to everybody that, yeah, we were the underdog, but guess what? We can still do it. Just like the new Philadelphia Eagles, baby. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm an Eagles fan, and everybody put us out for so long, and we came back and won with our second string in the Super Bowl. Nothing there can define that any other way than we won with a second string.
All right, and this will be Ride for Life's last time on the podcast because now I've just found out he's an Eagles fan.
Oh shit!
As he can only imagine, I'm a Giants fan, so we're division rivals. But yeah, it was definitely an exciting Super Bowl to watch. I don't really care for either of the teams that were in it, but you got to give it to the Eagles. They won it, and it was exciting.
And you got to remember, you got the Yankees, you got the Giants. You guys got multiple rings, and you got more than enough World Series wins. So, I mean, you got it there. Where you're lacking this year, you'll make up in the others.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I really think that we covered everything. Again, just make sure everybody keeps their eye out for May 23rd as Battlefield drops this new information that we are very excited to hear. And be sure to tune into the next podcast to hear everything about what's going on.
Absolutely, and we're gonna keep updating after every round, and it's only gonna get more and more exciting as we move on. We're gonna get more in depth as there's less matchups to talk about. We'll just really dig into the four matchups we have coming up for the next round. We're gonna really dig in. Hopefully, we get some people to jump in, and don't be afraid to come on. It's not as hard as me and Ride make it look.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
No, but we will definitely look forward to doing it next time. And, thanks to anyone who's listening. We appreciate it. Thanks to anyone who's participating in the league. And we'll see you in the toxic chat.
Thank you, everybody. This is Ride and Mike signing off. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you guys next week.